It's 7 o'clock or a little bit after, so I guess we'll get going. Thanks for coming out tonight. We have two presentations that I think will be very interesting, so I'm going to keep my comments rather short. I thought I'd give a brief recap of events at the legislature last session. We have a more complete review in our MSRPO update in the newsletter that you probably have gotten, or you can get one from Judy out front. The salient point was really that there was a record budget deficit last year, and a number of proposals emerged that would have significantly harmed seasonal owners. As legislators were looking for places where they might raise money, we're always on the top of the list because we can't vote in the districts where we're being taxed. So last session, Henry Erdman and I, our lobbyists, spent a lot of time kind of playing defense, really. We were mostly successful and even managed to gain a little bit of ground in some areas. The bad news is that last year's solution was a one-time solution, the budget solution, and depended on over $2 billion in one-time federal stimulus money, which won't be around next year. In June, the Capitol report, and I believe you got a copy of that article, predicted that Minnesota's next budget deficit coming in the 2010-2012 biennium is projected at $7.3 billion. So more than last year by $1 billion. That means we're still behind the 8 ball in terms of pressure on property taxes. More cuts to local government are expected, and that could well translate into an increase in property taxes as they try and make up those deficits. The bad news really is that Minnesota is heading into a very real budgetary crisis. The good news is that Minnesota is heading into a budgetary crisis. I don't think we can continue as we have. For the last few years, MSRPO has been working with past Revenue Commissioner John James on a plan to entirely rework Minnesota's state and local fiscal system. In 2005, Mr. James made a presentation to MSRPO membership at the annual meeting out in Minnetonka. Maybe some of you were there. He's calling his plan Crisis into Opportunity. And I believe that this crisis is just that. It's an opportunity. And I think that with the gubernatorial elections coming up, the voters, so us, must hold the candidates accountable to solve the mess we are in. And this pressure must come from us, from outside the system that got us into this crisis in the first place. A number of citizen advocacy groups have folded in the last year. The most prominent is the Minnesota Seniors Federation. Or others have cut back their lobbying efforts at the Capitol. MSRPO now has the distinction of being the only nonpartisan property owners group at the Capitol. Other groups like the Minnesota Taxpayers League or the Minnesota Taxpayers Association are either very partisan or funded by nonprofit endowments or business. And that's the sort of situation often where whoever pays the fiddler gets to call the tune. And you pay the fiddler. We pay the fiddler, so we get to call the tune. And I think that's a lot better dynamic for initiating meaningful change. The effort to create a vision of our state's future, including a new way of paying for our government, will be part of a larger effort called Charting Minnesota's Future. Charting Minnesota's Future will begin with a statewide dialogue and a bringing together of our best and brightest in many areas of government. And it will be citizen-led and largely citizen-funded. The final result will be a book, a set of prescriptions and legislative recommendations that will force campaigns to respond. And you should expect to see more of this. I'll be sending out emails as things progress and these listening sessions begin to happen around the state. And we're going to be very involved in that process. Outside of our legislative efforts, much of the work the board has done over the past year has been strategic planning. For many years, board members have noted that our name, MSRPO, is not very good. It's often misquoted, MPSRO. In 2005, the name of our tax class was changed from seasonal recreational property to seasonal recreational residential property, so our name's not even accurate anymore. It should be MSRPO, I think. And the discussions of a name change led us into ideas about, our mission. And while we're still focused on property tax fairness, that issue has led us into other areas. The health of our lakes, overdevelopment, zoning and regulation, and owners' rights, assessment practices, owners' rights like the rent-to-rent property from time to time. I know some of our members will rent out their cabins for a couple of weekends or a week or two a year, and that came very close to being made illegal. So if you wanted to rent your property for even one night, you would have had to adhere to all the same rules and regulations as a resort. And that did not go through. We worked pretty hard on that. So it's kind of an exciting time as we sort of look at what MSRPO is and what it can do and what it does well. And really we need all of our members involved in this discussion. So we're going to be interviewing and questioning both members and non-members about their values and the uses of their cabins, what they care about, what type of work they would like to see us undertake on their behalf. We will seek to better understand seasonal owners in Minnesota and brand these values with a more cohesive message. You were given a questionnaire as you came in, and I'd like to encourage you to please fill it out and jot down any ideas or comments that you may have on it as you do. And now, since we have a rather full agenda, it's time. I'll move on to the next agenda item, which is the reading of the minutes. If nobody's adverse to it, perhaps we could hear a motion to dispense with the reading and approve the minutes without reading them. All those in favor? Okay, good. You're off the hook, Barbara. And so I'll get right to our first speaker. Do we have, what's next on the agenda? Do you have election results. So I'll stop and turn over to Dale Carlton, our fearless leader.
Fearless leader for another 20 minutes or so. I've got the election results. The 2009 Board of Directors election took place by official ballot via mail prior to the meeting. Each nominee was elected, and if they receive a plurality of the votes cast, and the 15 new board members, some are new, some are continuing, are Carol Algila, Gary Blodel, John Bogard, Bill Bretsky, Earl Brunberg, George Grolig, Ron Earhart, George Goschel, Dorothy Grandstrand, Jeff Heegard, Ted Johnson, Mary Manns, John Nowicki, Jerry Radigan, and Barbara Robertson. Tell you a little bit about we have the three new board members, and Jeff is really responsible for getting these people, and he's done an excellent job of getting people that from diverse backgrounds who fill in blanks on the boards for financial reasons or whatever else to get a well-rounded board. And having looked at this bios of the three board members that are newly elected, I see that it looks like the Heisman Trophy election, because if you're not sure you're going to be elected, you don't show up, but if you think you are, you probably will be here. So Ron Earhart's back here, but the other two are not. And Ron and his family own a seasonal property on Woman Lake in Cass County, and he served 9 terms in the Minnesota House on the finance, transportation policy, taxes, property tax relief, and local sales tax, rules of administration, and ways